Pope Francis' cause of death is revealed. How Pontiff, 88, passed away peacefully after astonishing final act of Easter devotion saw him to a massive crowds for almost an hour. Pope Francis died some 90 minutes after he was awoken by his alarm clock this morning. Italian media reports the Pontiff, who died today aged 88 at the St. Martha residence in the Vatican, passed away peacefully, according to his doctors. He reportedly woke up when his alarm went off at 6 a.m., fell ill at 7 a.m. and died from a stroke at around 7:30 a.m., according to Corriere della Serra. Still, the exact details surrounding his death are uncertain. It is understood he did not succumb to the recent bout of double pneumonia he had been hospitalized with earlier this year. La Repubblica and La Stampa claimed that Francis died due to a cerebral hemorrhage, possibly a stroke, which was said to be unrelated to the respiratory problems and pneumonia he suffered in February. The Holy See's press service announced only the Pontiff's death shortly after he passed away, writing in tribute that he had dedicated his entire life to serving God and the Church. His body will now lie in state in St. Peter's Basilica for 3 days, and then he will be buried in the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore in Rome. His body could lie in state as soon as Wednesday, according to Matteo Bruni, director of the Vatican press office. The death of the Argentine Pontiff, leader of the Catholic Church since March 2013, came less than a month after having been released from hospital following a 38-day battle with double pneumonia. In a final act of devotion, Pope Francis had greeted thousands of faithful in St. Peter's Square on Easter Sunday in what turned out to be his last public appearance before his death. Surprisingly, the Pope was not wearing a nasal cannula hooked up to oxygen when he was driven through the crowd of 35,000 faithful yesterday, having worn it for many of his appearances since he was discharged. For about 50 minutes, the Pontiff's vehicle slowly moved through the masses in 21°C heat. But Italian media now speculate that doctors would have advised against him bathing in the crowd as he was likely immunocompromised. Earlier, he had appeared on the Vatican balcony and told crowds, "Brothers and sisters, Happy Easter," before. An aide read the rest of his annual Urbi et Orbi blessing and speech, which called for an end to wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Just days before he told reporters he was living it as best I can, after he was plagued with health issues and reduced mobility caused in part by his advancing years and expanding waistline. The Pontiff had kept up a busy schedule until his final weeks. In September 2024, he carried out a 12-day tour across Southeast Asia and Oceania that included visits to Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, and Singapore. When he was discharged from hospital last month, his doctors had said he would need at least 2 months of rest at his residence. The Pontiff had presented 2 very critical episodes where his life was in danger while in hospital, according to one of the doctors who took care of him. But he appeared keen not to be confined to his rooms at the Casa Santa Maria. The late figure made surprise appearances at the end of masses and visits to St. Peter's Basilica, which gave faithful hope that his condition was improving. In the last week of his life, he appeared in public twice without the nasal cannula through which he has been receiving oxygen. Yesterday, he met briefly with US Vice President J.D. Vance, a Catholic convert who was received into the church in 2019. The meeting, which lasted a few minutes, gave the opportunity to exchange greetings on Easter Sunday, the Vatican said. The Vatican said the meeting between the Vice President and the Holy Father was brief and lasted a few minutes. The Pope offered the Vice President 3 large chocolate Easter eggs for his 3 young children who did not attend. The pair had tangled sharply over migration and the Trump administration's plans to deport migrants en masse. Francis has made caring for migrants a hallmark of his papacy. The meeting raised hopes that Francis could be making a recovery after he turned away from giving Vance an audience on Friday, officially out of caution over his health situation. Corriere reports the Pope was hoped to be making a steady recovery from double pneumonia after his release from hospital last month before Cardinal Kevin Farrell, the Vatican Camerlengo, announced that he had died at 7:35 a.m. local time, 5:35 a.m. GMT today. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite, merciful love of God, one and tribune, he said in a statement. Francis had only left hospital under protected discharge on March 23rd after suffering an infection that developed into pneumonia in both lungs earlier this year. But he resolutely toured through the crowd of 35,000 believers for 50 minutes at 21 degrees on Sunday after delivering the Urbi et Orbi benediction with help from an aide. The Pontiff concluded the traditional address by wishing Catholics a happy Easter and calling for an end to conflicts around the world. The conclave, where cardinals gather in the Sistine Chapel at the Vatican to choose a successor, will not happen for at least 15 days. The College of Cardinals will soon meet in Rome to choose a successor. The conclave follows precise rules. Only cardinals aged under 80 are allowed to vote. Of the 252 living cardinals, 138 are under 80 and are therefore eligible to vote in the conclave. The ballot will not take place for at least 15 days, after 9 days of official mourning. In the interim, a cardinal known as the Camerlengo or Chamberlain becomes interim chief with limited powers. Sunday's scheduled canonization of the Church's first millennial saint has also since been postponed to a later date, the Vatican said on Monday. Carlo Acutis, who died of leukemia in 2006, aged 15, was meant to have his sainthood rubber stamped in a Mass at the Holy See on April 27th. Following the death of the Sovereign Pontiff Francis, we inform you that the Eucharistic celebration and rite of canonization of Blessed Carlo Acutis has been postponed, the Vatican said in a brief statement. Dubbed God's influencer or the cyber apostle, Acutis spent much of his short life spreading the Catholic faith online. Carlo was born in London to Italian parents on May 3, 1991, but mostly grew up in Milan. He spent holidays in the family's second home in Assisi, and eventually died in Monza, northern Italy. His family was wealthy and not religiously observant, but Carlo was imbued with ardent faith from a young age, attending Mass every day. Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni said the news of Francis' death deeply saddens us as we are saying goodbye to a great man and a great shepherd. I had the privilege of enjoying his friendship, his counsel and his teachings, which never failed me, not even in times of trial and suffering. The Pope and I had a more active relationship than was apparent, she told Italian state broadcaster RI in a broken voice. It went well beyond our respective institutional roles, she told Italian state broadcaster RAI. We've met many times, even just to exchange opinions. He was able to give comfort in very difficult moments. I have many memories of the Pope. King Charles also shared a statement in tribute, saying Francis would be remembered for his compassion, his concern for the unity of the Church, and for his tireless commitment to the common causes of all people of faith, and to those of goodwill who work for the benefit of others. Through his work and care for both people and planet, he profoundly touched the lives of so many, the statement continued, adding, "The Queen and I remember with particular affection our meetings with His Holiness over the years, and we were greatly moved to have been able to visit him earlier in the month." French President Emmanuel Macron, whose country is largely Catholic, also shared his condolences in a post on X. From Buenos Aires to Rome, Pope Francis wanted the Church to bring joy and hope to the poorest, for it to unite humans among themselves and with nature. May this hope forever outlast him. The bells at Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral rang out 88 times on Monday in honor of Pope Francis, who died aged 88, an AFP reporter at the scene said. The 88 rings for 88 years of life were to be followed by a full ringing of the cathedral's bells before a noon Mass in Francis's honor, followed by another in early evening, according to the Notre Dame press office.